5:30, lawmakers are fighting to find a deal to avoid the automatic spending cuts that are set to set in March 1st.
Unless Congress takes action, sequestration calls for a series of defense cuts of more than $500 billion over the next 10 years. Local military advocates say it could go either way. The chair of the Montana Defense Alliance, David Wiseman, says if sequestration occurs, Malmstrom Air Force Base could see a 16% reduction in their budget. While no final details have been reached, Wiseman says each branch of the military is actively preparing for what-ifs. And bases, including Malmstrom, are searching for ways to meet the reductions while still maintaining national security.
So they're looking at where they can take out that are not mission essential, so that supplies or maybe TDYs that they have, ones they can at least affect without directly affecting the rest of the mission.
And while he hopes it's not the solution, Wiseman believes sequestration is the only way to get these cuts accomplished.
Governor Steve Bullock is partnering with the former president of the Montana Senate to reform the state's campaign finance laws.
MTN's Marne Banks explains more about this bipartisan effort.
My mailbox, my TV, and my car radio were filled with nasty, misleading, and shameful advertisements throughout this last election.
Governor Steve Bullock and Senator Jim Peterson come from opposite political parties, but both genuinely believe Montana's campaign finance laws need fixing.
Montanans are tired of dirty politics, nasty mudslinging, and personal attacks.
They are teaming up to bring the transparency, reporting, and accountability in campaigns and elections, or TRACE Act.
It's one thing to lie and distort the records of the positions of those seeking office. It takes it to a whole different level when those trying to corrupt our elections aren't even courageous enough to stand behind their statements by disclosing who's writing the check.
The bill requires all ads to state who paid for it, prohibits corporations and unions from donating to candidates, increases contribution limits, and increases fines for campaign violations. But perhaps the biggest focus is on dark money. Those are political groups which by law do not have to disclose their donors. Under the TRACE Act, these groups would be forced to disclose the names of their officers.
Our form of government works best when it operates in the full light of day.
Democrats in the Senate have expressed support of the bill. Senate Minority Leader John Sesso says, quote, "It's time to take action on the insidious flood of dark money into Montana campaigns." However, it's unclear if the other Republicans will be on board. Senate President Jeff Essman says he looks forward to discussing the proposal, but, quote, "Montanans didn't send us here so that politicians can focus on how they get elected to their job. They sent us here to focus on solutions that will make it easier for Montanans to find a job." At the Capitol, Marne Banks, MTN News.
Attorney General Tim Fox says Montana is joining 10 other states in their challenge of the Dodd-Frank Act.
The reform passed in 2010, changing banking regulations following the recession. Fox says it puts Montana at a disadvantage.
There were some problems in the financial world, particularly in Wall Street, and unfortunately, I think big government and big companies have kind of married in an unholy union here in a way that saves the big companies, the big banks, but leaves the small community banks out of the picture.
Fox says despite not causing the crisis, Montana and its banks are paying the price. Local banking institutions are fighting to keep up with the changing regulations due to limited manpower. The president and CEO of Montana Federal Credit Union says keeping up with compliance laws imposed by the Dodd-Frank Act makes the job more difficult for smaller banks.
It just keeps stacking on top of each other. So even though when you get one done, sometimes they'll go back and say, well, we changed our mind, we're going to change the rules, so you have to go back and regroup sometimes.
Montana and 7 other states filed a motion in federal court to be added to the original complaints. Those were filed by Michigan, South Carolina, and Oklahoma, challenging the Dodd-Frank Act.
A new witness takes the stand in the rape case against former U of M quarterback Jordan Johnson. A clinical psychologist for the prosecution was called to educate the jury about sexual assault and trauma. Dr. David Lisak testified generically about rape victims and the reactions to a sexual assault. He said victims are often in fear and in shock after a rape and tend to minimize those situations. He also said that the victim giving her assailant a ride home if she knows that person is not uncommon.
When it happens, it's not your normal experience. And because of that, the kind of behavior you see and reactions you see in somebody who's experiencing a trauma are very likely going to be different than what you'd expect from normal reactions.
The defense pointed out that Lisak can't testify to this particular case because he doesn't know it. Lisak agreed.
The Virginia man who allegedly threw explosives at local authorities while leading them on a pursuit is back in court. Lawrence Allen Stewart's trial date has been pushed back. The state was granted a continuance for the trial after proving they need more time to find an expert for the case. Stewart faces 3 counts of attempted deliberate homicide in Montana. He has outstanding warrants for up to 13 charges in Virginia, including attempted capital murder on law enforcement. The new trial date is set for April 29th.
Well, our team of forecasters watches the sky for the first sight of falling snow, rain, or even hail.
NASA, well, they watch for bigger items that might fall from the sky. KRTV's Matt Jones tells us about a threat being monitored beyond our atmosphere.
65 million years ago, an asteroid over 6 miles in diameter struck Earth with enough force to wipe out 50% of the Earth species. Now, NASA scientists are keeping a close watch on the skies as a new threat passes close to Earth. The small asteroid that scientists have named DA-14 will make its closest approach to Earth tomorrow afternoon. So close, in fact, that it will pass inside the ring of weather and communication satellites. NASA's Near-Earth Object Program can accurately predict the asteroid's path with observations obtained, and the good news for us is that there's no chance the asteroid might be on a collision course with Earth. And unlike the giant asteroid that ended the era of the dinosaurs, this rock is just half the size of a football field. Nevertheless, scientists say that if it did strike Earth, it would hit with enough force to cause significant damage and change the world's climate. The next notable close approach to Earth will be on February 15, 2046, when the asteroid will pass 620,000 miles from the surface. And with over 500,000 asteroids within close proximity to Earth, scientists say we're bound to have more close calls in the years to come. In Great Falls, Matt Jones, MTN News.
Time to get an update from another member of our Storm Tracker weather team.
Mike, should we be prepared for more snow this evening?
No, the disturbance that brought us the snow last night has moved to the south of us. It's now dumping snow in the central plains. We're starting to clear out across northern Montana, and I do think we're looking at a partly cloudy sky tonight. 19 right now in Lewistown. Boy, has it been colder today out there. Glasgow at 25. We're at 31 right now as we look live from the U.S. Bank iCam. Cloudy skies at the airport. Feels like 26 because winds are out of the southwest right now at 5. Partly cloudy this evening. Temperatures mid to upper 20s, and we will slowly cool off here. The winds have shifted, though. They're already out of the southwest. That warms us up. I'll show you just how warm we'll get coming up in Storm Tracker weather.